Okay, looks like I'm fired up here on the webpage. Am I? Where am I at? There we are. Awesome. Okay, so I'm live and I'm not able to see the chat just yet, but okay, there we go. I'm going to try it this way. Okay, so yesterday I did my study Bibles and I showed how I copy them into notes. Today, what I'm going to do is carefully try to do this. I'm going to show you how I copy and paste stuff from my commentaries into my notes. And then if I have time, I'm going to show you how I go through my study Bible notes on my iPad. I didn't like I said yesterday in the video at least once. This has been kind of a weird week, and so it's not normal for me to do this. At the times that I'm doing things, I try to do this stuff from about 9:30 to 12:30. I try to keep my study and preparation for the mornings and my time for my church family and other work in the afternoons, and then spend time with my family in the evenings. Today's Wednesday, and I have a class that I teach on Wednesday nights. And so, excuse me, I'm just making sure my phone's on silent here. And Wednesday nights, I typically have a class that I teach. And so I'm kind of getting that ready this afternoon. And so I may not spend as much time doing this video as I would like. But here we are. So I'm in Logos, and you can see I'm in the top right corner there. And you see this whole thing. You see some of the layouts that I have saved. You see my prayer list right there, which I don't know if you want to see that. There's nothing really personal there or anything. I maybe sometime I'll go through my prayer list with you as another video. If that's something you like, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know that's something you'd like to see, how I have my daily prayer list set up. Here is I keep wanting to point to my screen with my finger, but with my mouse. This is the actual sermon that's coming up. I'm in my series, 7 Psalms for the Season, and the title of this coming week's message is Satisfaction in the Desolation. I have a journal layout that is for just while I'm reading for my personal devotions. And then this just exegetical stuff is kind of for, it's not really even exegetical, it's just Greek study. And then I have my linked lexicon study over here. These are just 2 layouts I toy around with. Whatever, just ignore those. And then this is all Logos's stuff, ads, things from my library, free books, a little daily verse they throw in, this humble yourselves before the Lord, he'll exalt you. This is kind of cool though, because if you want to share that image to your social media, you can just click on it and it brings you into a whole little layout right here that Logos curates. There's my main Bible, my Legacy Standard Bible right over there on the left. And then here's the image, and you don't have to connect your social media to it. You can just right click it and click copy, and then you can paste that into your Facebook. I don't know if that even showed. Let me look real quick. Yeah, it doesn't show it, but you can right click and hit copy, and it'll show. Maybe if I had a second monitor, I could show you with that a little different. But anyway, that's something you can do. And then if you want to close out all your layouts, I don't want to save them. I made this little tab over here so I can just save my layouts. That's what it's a cross because Jesus saves, right? It's just stupid humor of mine. I don't even remember how I did that. I watched a video and learned how to do it, where you just automatically save the current layout. I'm not going to do that though. I'm going to close them all out by hitting this little square with the X by it. That closes all your stuff out. And it just reloads your dashboard. And you see it looks different now. Oh, free month ebook. This month's ebook, 52 weeks to do the Psalms. So that's nice. If you want to spend a whole year reading the Psalms. Anyway, you're not here for that. You want to see the sermon prep stuff. So here we go. This is 7 Psalms for the season. Psalm 63. Now you saw yesterday, and I did Psalm 1 and Psalm 2. You see those over here in this notebook. And you saw my notebooks because I accidentally deleted everything. But you see, I have my notebooks right here and Psalms for the season, and I'm going to hide those because I don't really care to see them right now. These are all my notes from my study Bibles, which are up here in the top right corner of my Logos layout for this. Now, I am going to kind of expand the commentaries up a little bit more like that, and I'm going to create a new note, but I want to bookmark or tag or anchor in Psalm 63 again. So I'm going to hit new note, and that's going to anchor it right there in my LSB Bible, that whole thing. Now you notice over there on the right, everything's moving. It's because I have these all synced up. The link set, they're all linked together. Linked and synced. That's how I remember it. By the way, this is not a paid promotion. I paid for this coffee cup from 316 Publishers that says LSB on it, right? I do like the LSB translation, and I have a couple of them on my desk right now. And this is just a cheap 2-column verse by verse that I got. It's the pleather, that's not the real name for it, type of cover. And I'll use this in my own personal reading. If I'm preaching at a nursing home, that sort of thing, I'll sometimes use this. This is the Bible I'm doing my daily devotions out of, and it's the LSB Legacy Standard Inside Column Reference. Now, I've had a couple of these already. They're premium Bibles, and what I did was I have 3 kids, and I go through each Bible in a year or 6 months. This one I'm taking a year and going through it, and for each of my kids, when they turn 16, they'll get one of my premium LSB Bibles. This one is very special because not because one kid's more special than the other, but this Bible is a little more special and will be to her, because when my daughter turned 16, this Bible, I preached the message the day she was baptized. I preached out of this Bible, so it's kind of got a little more significance maybe for her. I wasn't a pastor, and I wasn't really preaching when my oldest was baptized, and I don't even know what Bible I was really using at that time. I think it was an NASB 95. And my youngest isn't old enough to be baptized just yet, so we'll see what happens. I'll have to dig his Bible out because I read through that one, and he said, I want that Bible when you're done. So when he turns 16, he gets that one. But they're all 3 premium LSB Bibles. I don't love their premium leather. I'm just going to say that outright. Their goat skin, it feels very plastic. And I think I mentioned that in one of my review videos I did. And it seems to take dust very well. I don't know. It gets dusty. But anyway, for right now, I'm just going to use the little one that I have. And I'm going to find Psalm 63 and have my Bible open to that. So here we go. This is kind of my process. So you're along for the ride. Psalm 63. Yep, there we are. Okay. Now, I should also say, and I didn't say this yesterday because in my mind it's just something that should just be very natural to the preacher. Begin in prayer. I've already prayed this morning, and I've shown you my prayer list. Well, I didn't go into it, but you know what I mean. It was on my thing. I try to pray before I start study. I try to pray as I study. And maybe I'm just praying under my breath or whatever. Maybe I'll hit something that hits my heart, and I'm just like, thank you, God. But be in prayer. Pray without ceasing. Do that as you're doing your sermon preparation. Ask God's blessing to be on your sermon. You know, you may not be preaching to 5,000 people on Sunday. You may only be preaching to 5, but you want the power of God behind it, obviously. And obviously it's going to be because it's His word, and if you're faithful with that, that's something. But you want your heart attuned to His as you're delivering that. And so I won't go into that anymore right now, but be praying as you're doing your sermon prep. Pray before you do sermon prep, all of that stuff. Now I did mention, I've already gone through the Hebrew words. You saw yesterday I do the stuff on my study Bibles. You saw how I did that. Today I'm in the commentaries. Now commentaries I'll do a little different most of the time. I don't have a ton of commentaries on the Psalms. The ones that I do, I think, are pretty solid. And like I said, I go for quality over quantity. And so, as I am here in this, I'm going to mark this as commentaries. And I did mention that sometimes, well, what I do for my own research for future stuff, I save everything as a Word document, and I save it into a folder with each sermon series, and then I'll upload that to the cloud or whatever. And when I'm done, I'll have my sermon, my research, my study Bibles, my commentaries, my Hebrew words, my Greek words, whatever, my meditations on it. I'll have that all in one folder, and then I'll have my sermon manuscript too. And if someone in the church wants a copy of my sermon manuscript, I have no problem printing that off and giving it to them, or emailing it to them, sharing it with them, because I think pastors should operate in transparency, and I try to do that to the best of my ability. So, all of that. Okay, you got all that. Now we're going to get into the actual commentaries. I accidentally bumped my mouse there. All right, we're in the Bible Knowledge Commentary. And so I'll start over here in my thing, and I'll write BKC. Well, or I'll try. BKC. Bible Knowledge Commentary. I know what that is. You may not know what that is. That's okay. Now, sometimes I'll just take the whole thing, especially when it's a psalm like this and it's only 11 verses. I'll copy and paste it like I do my study Bibles, just like that. But I want to be able to spend a little more time reading through what I've got, especially when I don't have 15 commentaries that are 6 paragraphs for each verse. So what I'll do is I'll read here just to understand a little bit more about it. And if you don't mind the silence, I'm a slow reader sometimes. Okay, it doesn't tell us here. It just tells us David was in the wilderness again. It doesn't tell us if they believe he was on the run from Saul or Absalom, either one. It's an interesting book. I don't recommend it always because some pastors will use it inappropriately. The whole culture of honor. I'm sorry, I'm kind of off track. But there's a book called A Tale of Three Kings. And I can't remember who wrote it, but I was made to read that in Bible college. And it's about Saul, David, and Absalom, and how David obviously stands out between the king that came before him and the would-be king that came after him. And again, there's a whole thing called the culture of honor, which is really a culture of abuse, if I'm honest. And people will sometimes use that book to say, no matter how good your leader is or how bad your leader is, you should just follow him blindly. You want to be a David, even if you're sitting under the ministry of a Saul, that sort of thing. I get the author's point. You want to be faithful, but I have also seen that principle misapplied and misused to keep those under you in ministry under your thumb rather than in subjection to the Word of God. And I don't like that. Mostly, if you know my story, I've had something like that happen to me, and so I really don't want to be that guy. So, but it is interesting how this psalm plays out with Saul or Absalom. We don't really know which aspect of David's life, which era, of David's life this happened in. And so there's a good principle to be taken just from that. It doesn't matter if it was Saul or Absalom. David was in the wilderness and he was seeking God. And he was still praising God. He was still worshiping. He still sought the Lord with his whole being. And so, anyway, that's just something I think is interesting. And it'll probably make its way into my sermon introduction or conclusion. But anyway, the faith expressed in Psalm 61, 60, and 62 reaches a climax in this marvelous hymn. So this would be a hymn, right? It's not a psalm of lament. It's not a psalm of kingship or a wisdom psalm. It's just a hymn, and so I like that. It's probably something I'll keep in mind as well. And okay, so the BKC says David's experience in the dry, waterless wilderness prompted him to think of the thirst of his soul for God. CQ, David's longing in spite of his separation from the sanctuary. So I might just take this right here because I think that's a good point. This was the praise of one who, in a dry desert, thought more of God than of life-sustaining water. So I'll take that and I'll pop that over here. And again, I'm not using this for writing a college paper, so I will knock that reference out. And then these are more, this isn't really great commentary here. I'm not really seeing a lot of depth of information like I like to get from my commentaries sometimes. It's a good point. That's why I copied it, but I'm not going to copy and paste this whole thing. If there is something where there's like a lot, like Calvin's commentary, which I'll get to in a minute, those are usually very wordy, and I may just copy the whole thing and read it later. The idea here is not that I'm stockpiling research. I am, but that's not really the idea. Is I'm wanting to get stuff that I want to use later. And I may take this part right here just to show that I do that. I don't know. Okay, that's all I'm taking from the BKC. And now I'm going to come over here to Matthew Henry. Now, my personal opinion, when it comes to commentaries, Matthew Henry is the GOAT. I mean, he's the best because he's the classic commentary that everybody seems to have, everybody uses. He has some fantastic stuff. I didn't know this until recently. He didn't write the whole commentary. He died. And I don't remember if it was when he got to Hebrews. He was about halfway through the New Testament and he died. And his friends took his notes and finished the whole commentary on the whole Bible. And I mean, that just tells you how many people have used all the way through Revelation. How many people have used Matthew Henry over the last 150, 200 years, and it's still timeless. It's still good. So I'm going to get a lot from Matthew Henry, and I'm just going to take all of it because I like Matthew Henry. And I'm going to just go through here all the way down. See, this is one of those, he does write a lot too. So rather like the BKC where the Bible Knowledge commentary where I'm able just to see a few verses, there's a lot here. So I'm going to unpack that later when I have more time. This is just, I want to kind of skim it or have it available at my fingertips. So I'm going to go over here to my notes. Matthew Henry, boom. And again, delete that footnote stuff. And I'll come back to him later, and especially I'll have it whenever I'm doing my actual sermon prep. When I get to verses, I'll come over to this. Some commentaries, they do just like the Bible Knowledge commentary. They just give you a little blurb, and that's fine for your devotionals or maybe your Bible studies that you're putting together for maybe your men's ministry. That's fine. But I like to get as deep as I can. I like to dig as much as I can into the verse for my sermons. And so a lot of times I will try to have more. Now the next one in my lineup here is John Calvin's Commentaries. And I don't know if you can see that. It's got a little pop-up window. Let's see if you can see that whenever I do that. Here. I'm going to mess around with my windows to... No, you can't see the little pop-up window. But if you hover over a book in your setup here, you'll get a little window that'll tell you what it is, who wrote it, sometimes the publisher and stuff like that. But here we are. We're in Psalm 63, and this is John Calvin. So I'm assuming Calvin wrote all this. They at least put his name on it. And this is a shorter psalm, remember. And he just skips verse 10. You see this? Verse 9, verse 11. There's no verse 10. Thanks, John. Jean. He skips verse 7 too. Skips over that. So I don't know if he just felt like those verses weren't important. I don't know. I think they're important. God thinks they're important. But whatever. John Calvin didn't. But I like his commentary because sometimes I like to know the thought process of a reformer and stuff like that. So I'm just going to copy all that, put it over here. And you may not like John Calvin. You may love him. I don't care. His commentary. And I don't worship at the altar of John Calvin. But I do appreciate church history and the way some of these guys, especially the reformers, may have looked at things. Now, this commentary here is the Expositor's Bible Commentary, and I don't like the way it's set up here for some reason. I don't remember it looking like that when I did Psalm 1 and 2, but whatever. So I'm going to do that. Put that right there. And it says, okay, and again, right here, the psalm is associated with David's stay in the Judean wilderness, either during his escape from Saul, 1 Samuel 23, or in a later period from Absalom. In spirit, it is close to Psalm 42, 1 and 2. Fits well, and I just saw that the other day last night. I say the other day. Last night when I was looking through my study Bibles, I saw that reference. So that's something that I will probably remember to mention. Now, you saw that this one doesn't have the tons of text like, say, the Calvin commentary did. So, what I will do is probably just go through here and pick and choose what I like or what I think will be useful. Let's see. In the Elohistic Psalter, the emphatic "O God" signifies essentially the same as Yahweh, which, if you use the LSB Bible, uses that name for God. The covenantally faithful God in seemingly redundant statements, "You are my God." The psalmist affirms that his God is El, or I would say Yahweh. For the true believer, there is no other God than Yahweh. The psalmist yearns for fellowship with the Lord like one who thirsts for water. This is all just kind of, well, it's commentary, but it's not really what I was looking for. I thought there was going to be more insight when I started reading this. So, and you'll have that happen sometimes. If you've ever preached, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Some notes on here. I'll probably copy that because he talks a little bit about the Hebrew wording. And my Hebrew is very weak. So, pop that in there. And go back. And here we go, verses 2 and 3. And I'm able just to read here quickly. You're probably reading along with me if you want. Here we go. This is something, protection. The verbal expression, "My soul clings to you." Well, I didn't really cover as much as I thought it would, so I'm not going to copy that. Here we go. The vision of divine vengeance and justice gives further reason for rejoicing. After all, deliverance consists not only of redemption from evil, but also the redemption to a life of fellowship and enjoyment of God's beneficence. In view of the present suffering, the king longs for his God to come through in triumph. So I'm going to copy this. Why not? It's free. Well, it's not really free. It's been paid for. So, all right. So that's all I'm going to pull from the Expositor's Commentary. Now, this next one, Studies in the Book of Psalms, William Plumer. I have found some really good nuggets in this. And he gets a little more wordy. So what I'm going to do is just copy the whole thing and come back to it. And he has some doctrinal and practical remarks here at the end too, which maybe I didn't catch that before. And he has a lot of remarks. So I'm going to copy all of that. Come over here. And I don't know if I spelled his name right. I think I did. And now I move on to the next one. Now I have these three right here. These are all Psalm 1 through 50, Psalm 51 through 100, and Psalm 101 through 150. I'm just going to open up, oh, nope, wrong one. I'm going to open up the middle one because Psalm 63, boom, right there. This is not the greatest commentary, in my opinion. I've found some good stuff in it, but it's more for Bible studies, and you can see that here. There's a place to write things in there, and I'm not going to do that. But what I will do is I will copy all this, and I'll revisit it tomorrow or tonight before I start writing my full manuscript. And this is the Exalting Jesus, Matt Mason. David Platt helped with this, but the sad thing about David Platt is he had some good stuff. Emphasis on had. He had some good stuff. And then he went all super crazy during COVID. Well, he was probably bad before that, and I just didn't know it. But I loved David Platt, and it was heartbreaking when I noticed he was slipping down a slope I couldn't follow. But we don't follow men. We follow Christ, right? And so that's the more important thing. This is a commentary on the book of Psalms. I'm going to move on because you're talking about pastors who have failed or fallen or went woke or crazy. I just saw where I'm not Methodist, but I saw where some Methodist pastor was announcing he's transitioning today. Man, what's happening? I don't get these guys. But Platt, I watched the documentary on his church. It's just really sad stuff. But because like I said, I loved David Platt, but it is what it is, I guess. All the pastors I used to like are falling or dying. R.C. Sproul, he died. MacArthur died. Lawson fell. Voddie Baucham died. I mean, it's part of getting old, I guess. But again, I don't follow men. I love those guys. We should protect Paul Washer at all costs. But even he's had some controversy in the last 48 hours, which is kind of stupid. Any mature believer would know what he's talking about, but whatever. I'm not going to give social commentary right now. This isn't the place for it. I'm doing sermon prep. Okay, so this is Mark Futato. You say Futato, I say Futato, and George Schwab. I have no idea who either of those guys are. It's the book of Psalms and the book of Proverbs commentary here. And so I'm just going to write Futato. I don't know. I hope if you're watching, Mark, I'm sorry I butchered your name. Let's see here. He's got a little bit of commentary right here at the very beginning. Your power and glory, C62:11, for God's power. The word glory here is also used in 62:7 and 8, where God is said to be David's honor. For God's unfailing love, I believe the ESV says steadfast love, and the LSB translates chesed, I think I said that right, chesed, as loving kindness. So he's just kind of talking a little bit about that, the unfailing love of God, the loyal love of God. And then he gives his commentary down here, and that's what I'm just going to copy down and hang on to. It's a big blurb, so there we go. Thank you, Mr. That guy. Okay, and then I have 3 more commentaries here, and I'm just going to copy those. This is the CBSC. This is A.F. Kirkpatrick. I don't know who that is either. And this is the other thing. I would recommend knowing who your commentators are before you buy them, but these all came in a package. So if it doesn't make sense, I typically don't add it. Most of the commentaries I use, I still go back to Matthew Henry's. If they disagree with Matthew Henry, I typically throw them out. Oh, here we go. Here's one that's just got little blurbs per verse. This is per verse. It's not perverse like it's perverted. This is Jeffrey Grogan. Again, don't know the name. It's just a commentary. And here we are. The king suggests this is related to David's exile from Jerusalem and Absalom's rebellion rather than to his fight from Saul. Oh, that's a good point. A psalm of David when he was in the wilderness. But he does talk about doesn't he mention being the king? But the king will be glad in God. That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that. So yeah, more than likely, this is during the Absalomic exile. I like that. So good job, Jeffrey Grogan. He spells his name with a G though, so you can't trust him. I'm Jeff with a J. So I do like that. So we'll type in Grogan over here. I'm not going to put his first name, because it's Jeffrey with a G, and I don't trust those guys typically. But he made a good point. In fact, he's got some good points here, it looks like. Yeah, I'm just going to copy all this, because I don't know. He might be the first Jeffrey with a G that I like. At least I like his commentary here on Psalm 63. And I'm kind of rushing now because I do want to actually read these after I stream, and I want to show you how I mark up my study Bibles on my iPad next. So, okay, all my longing, this is all my stars. Okay, let's see, Derek Kidner. I've heard his name before, and I think that's one reason I liked using his commentary. I'm just going to highlight all this and copy it on over. And that's it. Okay, that's it for my commentaries. Now, again, I will go back through all of this on my own, and there's a lot to go through. I will go back through this when I'm not streaming, but it's now all of this is now packaged right here. Now, I may put it over into a PDF, put it on my iPad, and read through it and mark it up. I may just read through it. Sometimes I mark it up. That's what I want to show you next, though. So I'm going to get out of this, and I want to go into my iPad. And here we are. This is what I'm talking about. So I want to be careful because I don't want to unplug my iPad. But I have this app. It's called Notability. Now, I use a different app. I can show you. GoodNotes. I use GoodNotes when I'm doing a lot of my meditation and things like that. Sometimes I'll do it in Notability, but I found GoodNotes is a little bit more what I want, I think, in my ability to copy and paste and dice it up. Plus, I get other pages if I want to write other notes in. I'll do a different video about that sometime. I tried to do that on Twitch, and I don't even know if I streamed. So Twitch is a different monster. But so you have all your stuff over here, and I have an Apple Pencil. If you're watching on the camera, it looks frozen. Yeah, my camera looks frozen. That's weird. Let's get out of this. Let's go back. Okay. Well, anyway, if you're still watching, hopefully you can see on the iPad here. Looks like it's still recording that. So, okay. I'll go through my study Bibles, and sometimes I'll use red mostly. And I'll see something, and I'll put a little star by it if it's something I like. I'll switch over to a highlighter, and I'll highlight something like this. And I'll just work my way through it. I don't know what's going on with my camera here, guys. I apologize. There we go. Looks like it might be working now. There we go. Fixed it. Don't know what that was about. All right. So I'm just showing you as an example. When he says here, my soul thirsts, David longs for God's presence like a wanderer in the desert longs for water. Well, obviously that, I mean, if If you've read the psalm, you know that. But I'm just underlining it. So what I'll do is sometimes I'll do this, and then maybe there's something down here by Sproul I like. I might just do that, just kind of to make sure I block it off. And this is just for quick reference. And then what I'll do is while I'm writing up my manuscript, what I'll do is I'll refer back to the things that I've highlighted and go back through everything. This is just kind of the thing about the study Bibles is it just kind of prepares your mind for what's going on in the text. Again, study Bibles are great for your personal reading, and they're great for little chunks of information. I have found some beautiful things only in the MacArthur Study Bible, because MacArthur didn't do a commentary on Exodus, to my knowledge. But his study Bible reads like that, and he does good work. Is John MacArthur the most scholarly pastor? No, not necessarily. But he has good commentary, and so that's why I recommend that. And it looks like my iPad froze here too, because I erased all those things that's now showing up. Anyway, back to Logos. Let's go back to Logos. Okay, so you see what's going on. This is kind of just my thought process, what I do as sermon prep, things like that. I hope you find this helpful. I've only spent about 37 minutes now showing you this stuff. I hope it blesses you. I hope that it's something you enjoy, maybe get a little nugget out of. And if not, I don't care. I'm not making any money off this. So, but anyway, it's something that I enjoy doing, and I hopefully can help another pastor get a little more out of his Logos or out of his Bible study. The main thing I think to take away is be in the Bible every day until you're ready to write that sermon. Be in it, be in that text, have your mind on it sometime throughout the day. So it's constantly being fed into your brain. And then, sit down and write your manuscript out. Maybe take a day off completely from it. Just let your mind wash away from it. And then hit it again Saturday, Friday, whatever your day is like, before you go to actually preach it. Go through, read your manuscript, do some edits. Make sure you're saying what you want to say, how you say it. Saying what you want to say, how you want to say it, I should say. Anyway, I hope this has blessed you. I hope you've enjoyed this. And anyway, that's it. God bless.